friends, welcome to or welcome back to the channel Jane Reads. My name is Jeanette, and today I'm hoping this is a fun video for you. I have seen this going around on Instagram and I thought let's turn it into a video, and it is first, favorite, next. So we pick an author and what was the first book I read by them, what is my favorite book that I read by them, and what do I plan on reading next. Doesn't mean it's going to be the next book, but as of this moment in time, which is April the 29th, it is the book that I'm planning to read next by them. So I have a wheel, so I'm going to move to the side so that I can pull up the wheel here. I'm going to do a screen recording on my phone. And there are 30 authors on this list. I am not doing them all. This will probably be a series that we can go through later. So I might do 5 authors today. I might do 10 authors today. I don't know. We'll see how long it goes because I don't want it to be a long video. And if you have authors, you would be curious if I've even read a book by them. What's my first book I read by them? What's my favorite book I read by them? And what's on my list to read next? Leave that author in the comments below, and they might already be on this list, or I might have to add them to the list. We will see. Okay, let's record the screen. Okay, so I have 30 authors on this list. Right now, they are sorted by author's last name because that is the way that I went through my spreadsheet to list them all. So I'm gonna shuffle. And I do have my reading log pulled up on my computer because I'm not going to remember offhand what the first book I read by them was. And my reading log does only go back to when I started Goodreads, so 2011. So if I read the first book before that, it's going to be an estimate. But we'll talk about that. Okay, so shuffle a few times. Okay. First author is going to be Carrie Stuart Parks. Do I know what my first book by her was offhand without looking? I want to say it's Relative Silence. And I'm thinking that is the book that is currently my favorite by her as well. So let me grab it. Okay, so Relative Silence by Carrie Stuart Parks. Now, let's see. Is this the first book I read by Carrie Stuart Parks? What is her name? Oh, no, it's not. I forgot about that book. Okay. So I should say, in order for an author to be on this list, I've read at least 3 books by them. Okay. So the very first book I read by Carrie was Fragments of Fear. I read this in 2024 and I got it from the library. I could totally remember. It was a vlog where I was trying new authors. Yeah, so Fragments of Fear. Honestly, I don't remember a lot about it. I gave it 4 stars when I read it. It was set in New Mexico. We've got somebody who's kind of searching and trying to find answers, but there's like a dig site involved. Yeah, that's all I remember. So as I said, my favorite is Relative Silence by her. This is also, the first one was a standalone as well. This one is also standalone. I read this in 2025, a year ago, actually, in May. And this is South Carolina, and they're running from a hurricane is coming, tropical storm. I think it was a hurricane, I'm pretty sure. And it says, a powerful family with dark secrets, a forensic artist with his own haunting past, The truth will determine whether she lives or dies. I really don't remember a lot. There was secrets involved in it, but it totally kept me guessing. And yeah, I gave this one 4 stars as well. I really enjoyed it. Okay, what do I plan on reading next by her? I should have grabbed that book the same time I was going to get that one. Okay, so the next book that I plan to read by her is A Cry from the Dust, and it is book 1 of the Gwen Macy series. It is a 4-book series, but book 1 is one of my 26 and 26 books. Hence, that is why this is going to be the next one I'm going to read by her. So I can complete my 26 and 26. I know it's about cults and Mormon, I think. I'm pretty sure, yeah. In the shadow of the Mormon Church, a 19th century conspiracy is about to be shattered by a 21st century forensic artist. Okay. Next author is Liz Tolsma. Okay, I know this one for a fact. Okay, the very first book that I read by Liz was The Gold Digger. It is part of the True Colors series, which focuses fiction based on strange but true events. And this is about men that end up going missing when they agree to marry this woman and what happens to them. And we've got somebody searching for their missing brother. And so, yeah, I loved this book. And my favorite by Liz so far out of the 3 books I've read is this book for sure, no doubt about it. This is the one that introduced me to her writing. And so a lot of times that tends to be, if I loved it, that tends to stay as my favorite because it was the one that introduced me. But yeah, I was so invested in this. I read this in August of 2024. And I remember reading it as a part of the Keep Me in Suspense readathon that I was co-hosting that year. And trying a new author again. Yeah. So that was the first book I read by her. That has been my favorite so far. As I said, I read 3 by her now. And the one I plan to read next is on my May TBR. And it is also a 26 and 26 book. And that is What I Would Tell You, which is book 1 of the Echoes of the Past series. It is a dual timeline. We've got 1941 and 2019. And it says, determined to resist the invading Nazis, a Greek Jewish woman's greatest dream has become her worst nightmare. So that is what I will be picking up next. Okay. Let's go for author number 3. Oh, Irene Hannon. Oh my gosh, that's going to be hard. I read a lot of Irene Hannon books that I don't own. So that I've got all the Hope Harbor up to, except for her newest one. And then we've got Romantic Suspense there. So yeah, I've read a lot of her. What was my first book? It was definitely a suspense. I'm pretty sure. I want to say Men of Valor. I want to say, or Thin Ice, maybe. That series anyways. Let's go to my spreadsheet and take a look. What is my favorite book by her? Oh, that's hard. Okay. It was a romantic suspense. It was not the series I thought it was. So the very first book I read by her was Deadly Pursuit, which is book 1 of the Guardians of Justice series. Editing Jeanette popping in, it was not Deadly Pursuits, because that is not book 1 of the series. It is Fatal Judgment, which is book 1 of that series. Deadly Pursuits is book 2. And I read book 1, book 2, and book 3 all in December of 2014. I binged that series and read them back to back. But honestly, I couldn't even tell you. I can picture one of the covers, but that's it. It's romantic suspense. That's what I know. But we're also looking almost 12 years ago. Wow. What is my favorite book by her? Oh, that's hard. What I was thinking, Men of Valor is the series name, is what I was thinking. It's not a book. Thin Ice is one of the books in the series before. Okay. So Irene Hannon writes contemporary romance and romantic suspense. So I think for favorite, I'm going to pick one from each genre because it's just way too hard. Way too hard. Okay. So for the suspense, I'm going to go with Point of Danger, which is book 1 in the Triple Threat series. We've got a radio show host that receives a possible bomb on her doorstep. And so a police detective gets involved to investigate, and the radio show host is receiving threats, and what is going to happen, who is behind it. And the reveal shocked me. I had not figured it out. They had me completely fooled. Then for the contemporary romance, it is going to be Sunrise Reef by Irene. I don't need to say the author's name. I'm talking about Irene Hannon's books. It is Sunrise Reef. It is book number 12. Or did 12 just come out? Is it book 11? Yes, it's book 11 in the Hope Harbor series, but this is a standalone series that the community carries over, but each story is its own. But we are following Bryn, who we saw as a background character earlier in the series, and Noah is his name? Yes. Who is a CPA. And then Noah's father is involved. And there are some really funny interactions between characters here. I love like Noah's dad as the elderly gentleman. And I loved these characters and the way they grew and I just absolutely loved this book. And what I plan on reading next by Irene Hannon is Harbor Point, which is book 12 of the Hope Harbor series. It just released in April, so it's the one I'm like anxious to read at some point soon. So yeah, that is the next one. Author number 4. Okay, Lyn H. Blackburn. No doubt about this one. The very first book I read by her is Beneath the Surface. It is a book 1 of the Dive Team Investigation series. And I read this when it was released. March 2018, and I gave it 5 stars. I fell in love. I have reread it in May of 2023 because then I binged the series. My favorite book by her, I've talked about it a number of times, so you might be able to guess. My favorite book is In Too Deep, which is book 2 of the Dive Team Investigation series, and this is Adam and Sabrina's story, and I just so connected with these 2 characters. While I love the whole series, it is a 3-book series. I did not pull book 3. While I love the whole series, it's really Adam Sabrina that I just absolutely love. I love the way this book opens, right with like a what kind of moment. And yeah, this is definitely my favorite by her, but all 3 books in this series were 5 stars for me. And what do I plan to read next? Whatever she comes out with. At this point in time, I have read everything that she has published. So kind of what I plan on reading next is her next release, which right now is a huge question mark. Okay, author number 5. Amanda Cox. I think I know which book is my first. I think. Yes, I was correct. Okay, so the first book I read by her was The Secret Keepers of Old Depot Grocery. This is a standalone, but it is kind of a dual, almost 3 timeline. We're following a mother, daughter, or a grandmother, mother, and daughter throughout this series. I remember Chantel from Chantel Reads All Day talking about this book, and I just absolutely loved the cover. And so I picked it up and added it to my want to read list, and then I read it in June of 2023, and I fell in love with it, especially with the grandmother storyline and her with her husband and stuff. And there is a part where just I bawled throughout this certain section because it was, how could that happen? No, that can't happen. Yeah, this was such an emotional, fun read. And so yeah, that is the very first book I read by her. However, that is not my favorite book by her, even though that was a 5-star. I loved it. My favorite book by her, again, Amanda Cox, you probably could guess if you've watched my channel for the last year or so. It remains to be The Edge of Belonging, which is another standalone. I read this in 2025, at January of 2025, and it has stayed my favorite book of 2025 all year, and it is still my favorite by her. This one, we are following Harvey, who is a homeless man who finds a baby abandoned at the side of the road and takes that baby and tries to care and raise that baby. And then we have other characters get involved. And then it is a dual timeline. Then it goes 24 years later, and the baby is now a young adult. And we're finding out how they're doing now, and they're finding out about their past. And it's filling in the gaps in between from when we meet Harvey and the baby and kind of where they are now. I absolutely love this. And again, she made me bawl at this, because there is a point with something, we're following it revealed. We kind of have a knowledge that it's going to happen because we've seen the past, right? We know. But when we find it out in the present of what happened, I was bawling so bad. It was like, oh my God, what an emotional journey and inspiring. Like the things, like Harvey doesn't have a roof over his own head and he's trying to care for this baby. Like, yeah, this continues to be my favorite by her. And what do I plan on reading next? Again, it is her newest release that is not out yet, and that is called Things We Cannot Keep. It comes out in August, because as of right now, I am up to date on reading all her published works. So this is the next book I need to read or could read by her that I haven't read. Things We Cannot Keep. I don't know anything about it really. It's Amanda Cox. I've added it to my want to read list. Okay, number 6. Dani Pettrey. Dani Pettrey. I know what my favorite book is. What was the first book I read by her? And what am I going to read next? I have 2 thoughts of what the first book was that I read by her. It was either Cold Shot, which is book 1 of a series. Well, they're both book 1s of a series, really. I can't... Blue Valor? Blue Justice? I don't know. I'll look it up in a minute. or it could be Submerged, but I don't think that was the first one. Let's look at my spreadsheet and see. This is why I keep a spreadsheet, because I don't remember all this stuff. Oh. Okay, the very first book I read by her was Cold Shot, which is book 1 of the Chesapeake Valor series. I had a partial name, all right? It is romantic suspense. That is what she writes. And I binged the first 3 books of this series, and then I had to wait for book 4 to be released. I read these September of 2017, and then book 4 didn't come out until, or I didn't read it till July of 2018. So it didn't come out till July of 2018. Yeah. And book 2 is the one I gave 5 stars to out of that series. But yeah, the very first book was Cold Shot, book 1 of the Chesapeake Valor series, which I read September of 2017. My favorite book by her to date is One Wrong Move, which is book 1 of Jeopardy Falls series. This one is set in New Mexico. We are following Christian and Andy, who are both looking into an art heist that has happened. Christian runs a security firm with his siblings, and Andy is an FBI agent, FBI forensic analyst, and they have to work together. And I was so invested in these characters, as well as what is going on with this art gallery or multiple art galleries. And yeah, I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I couldn't wait to pick up book 2. And what do I plan on reading next? It would be book 3 of this series, which is called 3 Steps Behind. It comes out in August. And so each book in this series is following one of the siblings of Christians and the security firm. And so the third book, we get the third sibling that we've already met throughout the series, but what is their story? Okay, so that is 6 authors. I said I was going to do 5 or 10. How many authors should I do? Should I do 8? Why not? Okay. Let's do an odd number. It's not really an odd number, but yeah. Okay. Liz Johnson. Liz Johnson. Oh. Okay, Liz Johnson writes contemporary romance and romantic suspense. And I know what the next book I plan on reading by her is. What is my favorite book and what was my first book? Okay, so I had no idea. I'm not surprised it is a love-inspired suspense book, because I kind of was like, did I read those before I read her full-length contemporary romance? I wasn't really sure. So the very first book I read by her was A Promise to Protect, and I read this April of 2013. And I read another 4 books in 2013 at that time. And they were all love-inspired suspense. So yeah, I don't remember anything about this book, but apparently I enjoyed it and continued reading more by her. My favorite book by her is contemporary romance. That is A Dazzle of Diamonds. This is book 3 of her Georgia Coast romance series. I initially read this in March of 2021, and I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. Honestly, at this point in time, I don't remember anything about it, but this is a series that I'm working my way through rereading. I have book 2 and book 3 left, so I will be rereading this one at some point in the near future, hopefully, maybe. Yeah, it just says Penelope loves her job as an event manager as one of Savannah's premier historic venues. Oh, I remember this now. Until her ex-fiance walks into her office with his new bride-to-be. So she's expected to plan her ex-fiance's wedding to a different bride. Yeah, so this is a romance, but it also has a bit of a mystery in like this series. Each book has a bit of a mystery going on of something from the past. And I don't mean something from the past, like from the Penelope's past with her fiance, but like we're talking like years in the past. So we'll see. The next book that I do plan on reading by her that is not part of my reread series is Sidelined by Love. This is the last book I have to read by her, and then she will be read to zero. I don't really know a lot about this book. It's a contemporary romance with a football theme, my understanding is, but it's the only book I have left on her to published or read. It's the only book I have left on her published books to read, and then she will be read to zero. Okay, and the last author we're going to do today is Elizabeth Camden. Okay, I believe To the Farthest Shores is the first book I read by her, but I'm going to consult my spreadsheet to find out. Okay, yes, it was To the Farthest Shores. This is a standalone. I read this, I read it in 2022. What month? December of 2022. And it is, what time period are we looking at? 1919? Like early, like World War I? 1904. Following a nurse who was in a relationship with somebody. Then the guy left because he was working as a spy, and he ended the relationship and went overseas on a mission, and he felt he couldn't keep a relationship, so he ended it. Now, 6 years later, he is back in town, but now he has a daughter with him. And the nurse is like, what happened? Like, you couldn't be with anybody and now you have what? And then she gets recruited to be around him because he's working with somebody who is struggling with an addiction. And as a nurse, she needs to be there with that person while they're going through their withdrawal. And so they end up in forced proximity for quite a bit of time. And it was really interesting to learn about that time period and what nursing was like. And then the whole mystery of what was his mission? How did he end up with his daughter? What's going on? Like, yeah, I really enjoyed this story. So that was the first book I read by her. My favorite book to date is actually the one I most recently read, and that is Beyond the Clouds. It is book 3 of the Women of Midtown series, and we are following 2 characters. I want to say Kate and Jake, but that does not sound right to me. Who grew up together and were friends, and then came into a relationship and dreamed of opening a kite store together. But then something happened and they went their separate ways, and those dreams just went to the wayside. 10 years later, it's now World War II. They're in New York City, and the guy comes back to town. And similar, they end up in forced proximity and having to work together. And we see Delilah is her name for sure. Just came to me. And we just watch them grow, and we find out what happened in the past, what caused the rift, And can they forgive each other for that? Then they end up overseas in Berlin, I'm pretty sure. And one of them ends up in jail. And we go through that process, like them dealing with that. We watch them grow and the friendship and relationship develop and the strength of the characters grow through the hard times. I loved that book. I would totally reread it. Okay, and what do I plan on reading next by her? Well, that would be Written on the Wind. It is book 2 of the Blackstone Legacy series. I binged the Women of Midtown series, and I'd already started this series and only read book 1 before I started the Women of Midtown series. So I need to go back to this series and complete the series. So yeah, it is book 2 in the Blackstone Legacy. This one I think is also set in New York, and we're following Dimitri and Natalia. I don't remember anything about this series, so I might have to refresh my memory. But yeah, that is the next one I want to read. So that is my first, favorite, and next for 8 authors that my wheel randomly chose for me to talk about today. Please tell me, out of these 8 authors, have you read all of them? Is there one that you have not read? I would love to chat in the comments below. Thank you for taking the time to watch this today, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.